Namaste, namaste, beautiful family of light. Good to see everybody here. And hello, hello on Facebook Live. Whenever this reaches you, just remember we are in the eternal now. So I was trying to think about a topic that would be relevant to speak about. And actually, the idea of that word fear, FEAR, came up. And many of us know that that has been a very instrumental tool that has worked very effectively on the human awareness consciousness, and for good reason. You know, when you don't know and things are unknown, and most certainly one of the most fearful of things that have been, although that is shifting and changing, but still within intrinsically in the human experience is death. And I just remember reading Elizabeth Kubler-Ross in my studies, and she really was one of the, well, a pioneer among others that really delved into death. And she's the one that came up with the 5 stages of death. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's a death of the human body. It could be a death of a relationship, a death of a job, in the sense of no longer having that connection. And she went through those 5 stages. And I don't know if I remember all of them, but one of them is like denial, then it's acceptance, and then there's anger. It's a whole process of different emotions regarding this topic of death. And one of the things that I thought was so beautiful, because a lot of the knowledge that we had from an ancient past has been gone. It has disappeared. It's been, or else suppressed, mostly suppressed. And so the idea of somebody coming in to addressing it in our modern times, okay, was really a blessing. And I feel a great shifting in the consciousness of humanity. Because, yes, making known the unknown is not necessarily an easy path. However, when you are dedicated to making known the unknown, it is quite the journey, and I would say the journey of liberation. So, fear, I think it's fundamental, is in that fear of a death of some kind or a separation of some kind. So, some practical, and I do mean practical ways. How do you transcend fear? Because, you know, maybe for us as light workers, we don't have maybe as much fear. Okay, but I will tell you, the masses that are out there now, oh my gosh, gripped by fear to the level of where there are people that no longer go out of their house. Everything is delivered home. There was a case I just remember after 9/11 where this young lady could not get out of her bed. She was frozen with fear. Okay. And so it's a very real emotion. And just like we have the capacity to feel love in a most, sublime and wonderful way, there is that other side of it where there are many that do experience this fear. However, we are in these biological bodies, and fear in this experience does have its place. Okay, it has its place because it's like, hey, there's a cyber tooth tiger coming your way. You should run. Okay, you should run. So that's a mechanism that was very much part of our survival. However, we've come to a point to say now we cannot be controlled by fear. And that's a big difference. And I would say that in our society, as they've always said, societies are ruled by kings and priests. And a lot of times, kings and priests, in whichever manifestation that happens, has used fear as a tool to engage, control, influence the masses of people. And the fear, actually, in reverse, is certain powers that be may become fearful themselves when they see individuals who have independent thinking, or those that do not go in alignment with whatever that particular goal or agenda is. Okay, so it's on both sides. Okay, so you have the powers that be that may want to inflect the idea of fear. If you don't do this, this is going to be a really bad consequence of that. Okay, and you also have it on the other side where you have those that maybe are independent thinkers and they become a threat to authority. So, how do we address fear? Because it is a real thing, and there are many, many people on the planet that are absolutely experiencing what that is to many varying degrees. And one of the things that I would say is if you are on your journey and choose to be on your path of fearlessness, okay, is when you come onto your spiritual path and realize that you're not alone. Okay, you realize that you know you're beyond the physical, biology, even the mental and the emotional. And as you do that, you understand there's more going on than what the five senses, the very limiting five senses, is projecting to you. And as you do that, that in itself, okay, puts you on this path of making known the unknown, or what I like to call the wonderment. And then you get to the point and say, okay, I think there's more to this. Okay. And I am committed to moving forward, move past my fear. Okay. And say, wow, I am now aware that things that limited me, I'm not as fearful as I was. Okay. Like, for example, somebody has, a particular phobia or something, or somebody said, try something new, and they've been so isolated. But when they do it, it's like, wow, it's completely different than what I thought it would be. So these are just little steps of just tiny steps. Okay. And the bigger ones is like, one, use the spiritual tools that you have. What about the breath? Okay. When there is, say, a danger and you have to act clearly, you just don't go off the deep end. Really, you take that deep breath and become centered, and you come from a higher level of balance to help you to make wise decisions. Okay. And then also, too, there is the broadcasting, of fear. Okay, if this doesn't happen, this is going to happen. And let's just say you haven't gotten to the point yet of what Toth says, the happy death. It's like, I always think of the beautiful Cathars and others are like, hey, we're good. We know there's a lot more going on. This is just the death, or uh, the physical body just going back into the earth, but my consciousness, okay, the thing that animates me, that continues. That continues. And so there's a certain level where it is less fearful when people come to that awareness. Okay. And as again, we start to say, okay, because Jesus the Christ said, and he said, what is the limitation that's keeping us into this matrix? I would want to call the false matrix. Is the overarching of that is the manipulation of fear. So all I want to say is that we take it in the way that we do, but know that there are many. We take care of the temple, but there are many who are not gripped by this fear of where one becomes completely frozen in that and just follows because of fear, and not suppressing their own divine guidance and ideas regarding this. So it's a process, but I would recommend that everybody does take that path and become fearless. When you understand who you truly are and what you're connected with, it's so much easier. With that, I'll say namaste to our beautiful family of light on Facebook Live. See you next time.